Good morning, everybody. How are you? It's always super exciting when I'm about to go live and the program we're using doesn't work. Ah! And I told John, I said, why are we getting so fancy? And he said, it's them, Restream, getting fancy and us trying to catch up as much as we can. So we've got a lot to do today. Um, and I want to get started. Also, this next weekend, it used to be called National Quilt Day. Then we started calling it at TQS International Quilt Day to be able to embrace all our members all over the world. And somebody the other day called it World Quilt Day. I like that. So we got a lot that's going on this next week. You're going to want to hang on till the bloody end to be able to see what all of it is. So, good morning, everybody. We have kind of cloudy skies. Rain's going to be coming in real soon, which makes my heart very, very happy. Okay. So I don't know if you know, but Octomom is back in the news, right? She's having a special, I think on Netflix or something. John said, I recorded it for you, and I'd already seen, I think she was on The View. Anyways, I saw this picture and I'm going, oh no, only at 7. Can you even imagine? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. That poor mommy. There are 7 there, and I was trying to figure out what 7 is. What is the thing for 7? She didn't quite make Octomom. And I think I'm gonna watch it. I don't know. I don't know. So Joanne sent me this, or Joan, and here's her little, she called it the mushroom, not the gnome. But I love this because what she has here is it's like a little embroidery book to be able to put her things in when, say, she's going to gild or whatever to keep them crisp and wonderful. Oh, there's a little frog. Oh my gosh, how cute is that next to Mr. Gnome? So this is the front. This is the back. Kind of just piece some things together. And then she lined it with black because that was the largest piece she had. The thing I'm working on right now, I'm lining it, backing it, or whatever, the one I've been working on, and I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, but it's white and black and a little bit of yellow. I had a big enough piece of cream, so that's the inside. But I love this because you can put your stuff in it, tie the beautiful ribbon closed, and then transport your wonderful work with you. So thank you so, so much. And if I recall, Australia is where this is coming from. Can you imagine walking in with a show and tell like that? Oh, look what I have. So, excuse me, let me take a little slurp here. As you know, QuiltCon just happened, and Lilo ran around and got interviews. And what we're going to be talking about today is judging at QuiltCon. And then I'm going to add some things in after the fact because QuiltCon is not like any other animal. All right. It's very different, I feel, in the judging than, say, if you were to go to Houston, Paducah, Mancuso, whatever. And there's a reason why it's different. And that's when I started investigating who the judges were and what they do. Okay, so typically judging at QuiltCon, typically, not always, and I've never been on the floor in the room where it happens, so I'm just telling you what my perception is from what I've learned. Um, they usually like to get 2 modern quilters, all right, and then somebody from some other sort of art form that can bring in a fresh perspective. And I think that's really important because I know for myself, when I dip into other art forms or listen, it brings something to the table for what I do. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I like that concept. All right. So let me see. One of them was Allison Glass. Now we know Allison. I mean, I think most of us know Allison as a fabric designer. Love, 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 love her stuff. Also, I want to comment on I love the mailbox shot. When we had the magazine, I just saw a squirrel, so I've got to address it. When Ricky and I had the magazine, we always had to come up with stylized shots. And I like this. But anyways, her work, her colors are vibrant and bright and exciting. And I don't know about you, but I can get really excited by a bundle of fabric, period, right? And look at the left one with the zebra. Okay. So then here we have one of the quilts, one of a quilt made out of her stuff, right? So the vibrancy is just amazing. But I didn't realize as I started researching Allison, stalking, is that she does have a lot of really great class offerings on her site. So, oh, here's some more quilts. Okay. The colors, is chew into them. Okay. But here's the part, the embroidery part. She has a bunch of she loves embroidery. Oh, girl after my own heart. And if you go to her site, Allison Glass, you will find a bunch of really great little projects. And some of them are iron-on transfers. I remember when I was a little girl, when my mom would go and get her hair done at the Normandy, she'd give me 25 cents and I'd go down to the dime store. This is on First Street, Rondi. And they would get a lot of you will remember these transfers that you could iron onto your fabric and then do your stitching. And maybe they were a nickel or 10 cents or something like that. So, yeah. Now, what we're gonna be seeing as we interview the one judge is, her, uh, judge's choice. So when everything in a quilt show is all graded and everything's judged, then often you will find what the judges want is their pick. So this is Allison's. This is I gotta look at all my notes. Yes, More, Please, by oh gosh. It is by okay, now I'm really embarrassed. Well, also we'll see at the end, okay? Okay, we'll see at the end. Yes, More Please is who she picked. I'm gonna scoot up and I'm gonna come back to this. So yes, um, you can see who made it. My overlays are covering it, so I'm having a hard time here. By Heidi Parks, okay? But what's interesting is another judge picked something by Heidi Parks. And so let's go down and learn about this next judge. This next judge is, oh, I got to undo that. Sorry. Next judge is Tammy Rubin. Now, Tammy is the person that's outside of the quilting genre, all right? She is um, here we go. She's from Chicago, but she is associate professor of ceramics and sculpture at St. Edward's University. So she's coming at this with a dimensionality. So here's some of her work right here. Again, it's ceramics, sculpture, etc. It's not flat. And she loves to put on installations. Installations are her jam. So I want to take a look at her statement because I think it's rather profound. I'm not that profound, so when I see an artist with words like this, it really truly draws me in. Um, my artwork contemplates narratives of Black American citizenry, migration, autonomy, longing, and faith. By weaving together familial and historical narratives, mapping data, and magical thinking, my installations evoke ritual movements of physical, metaphysical, and spiritual escape. I mean, that is really quite beautiful and something that I have to chew on for a little bit, all right? Because I just make my stuff, you know? So when you get somebody in there that it's coming from so much more, you need to listen to it, right? All right, so here's what she chose, and it's the blue quilt. And I think that's just fascinating that her work is blue. And then here she chooses this particular quilt by the same person as Yes More Please. So when Mary Kay sent me these pictures, I'm looking at these itty bitty pieces, and I thought, okay, how did she do that? Well, she did it a couple different ways. You can see these are pieced in, and then these are appliqued on top. Why limit yourself to one thing, right? Why? We do that. Okay, let's look again. There we go. Heidi Parks, 1 and 2. And okay, and I wanna say this about Heidi Parks. I don't know if she's listening or not. I love that you go, "What? What? It's the same person? What?" For Judge's Choice, because that really tells me how rounded Heidi is as a quilt maker artist. You don't just step up to the table and go, "Oh, well, that's a Heidi Parks." No. No, 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 no. So then we have Maritza Soto, and she's actually who Lilo scored an interview with. And I don't have to tell you a lot because you'll get it in the interview. But when I looked at her work, my heart went crazy. OMG. OMG. Ah, I love this. Okay. Oh my gosh. Color, 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 color. Maybe only to be matched by this. So there are the 3 judges that are there at QuiltCon, and you can see they come at it at completely different angles. So I am actually going to be judging a big show within a year. I'm not going to say which one, and I want to talk a little bit about that afterwards. But anyways, in the meantime, let's hook up with Lilo and Maritza and take a look at this interview. And if you're finding this on the internet down the road, this is QuiltCon 2025.
Hi, we're here with Maritza Soto, who was a judge here at QuiltCon this year. And so, before we go into the judging part, tell us a little bit about yourself and your history as a quilter and a teacher and educator.
Okay, so I am originally from New York. I am a graduate from Parsons School of Design. I studied illustration, and upon graduation, I did freelance work for a little while. Um, and then once it was hard living off freelance, you know?
Right.
So I did what a lot of artists do, which is I just got a job that was not in my field, which I absolutely hated, while trying to create on the side, which was a little difficult. I had to give my studio up, which was a huge impetus for buying a sewing machine, because I was no longer doing these huge paintings. Now I wanted to kind of work in a more controlled medium, or so I thought at the time, that it would be a more controlled medium, like tiny little things. Um, so I bought a sewing, well, first I picked up Denise Schmidt's book, which I'm going to talk about a little bit in my lecture on the history of improv, how I picked that book up, her first one, Denise Schmidt Quilts, and how it was kind of life-changing for me, because it completely changed how I thought about quilts. And it made me realize that, hey, you know, these are art. Like, your grandmother's quilt is art. And it made me really just start thinking of fabric as a medium. And so with that, I started making quilts. And then once I moved up here to Boston, so I moved up to Cambridge. I moved up to Cambridge in 2006, I think, because my husband's mom was ailing and we wanted to be near his family, and so that brought me to Gather Here. So Gather Here, which is a shop, it's it's a fabric and yarn shop in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and they actually just turned 14 this weekend.
Wow.
So they've been around for 14 years, and I started working there not even a year into them opening, maybe about a year into them opening.
So were you doing, because you come from Parsons School of Design background, were you doing clothing instruction as well as quilting, or you were doing sort of a little bit of both?
Well, the funny thing is that I used to make toys.
Oh.
And so they initially hired me to teach quilting and toy making, you know, plushie making.
Right.
And then eventually I started teaching sewing basics, teaching people who were completely new to sewing how to make a tote bag, how to make little projects like pencil pouches and things
like
like
the
that.
skirt that you did in home economics.
Yes, exactly.
That kind of thing.
Teaching people how to make pajama pants.
Right.
So that was another class that I taught, and lots of quilting classes, of course. And so I taught there for almost 11 years, and I think teaching post-COVID kind of burnt me out because I was doing a lot of like hybrid classes, and I think like that just didn't jive with my ADHD, because it was really tricky to try to like answer questions as they were coming up from people at home, as well as helping people in person, some of whom had never used a machine before. And so just trying to juggle the two, I think it broke my brain. So, but yeah, that's how I came into quilting and teaching, and
you've stayed kind of in that modern world.
yes.
Okay, and then now you've been doing that for many years. And so how did you get chosen to be a judge here at QuiltCon?
I think, honestly, I'm not sure. I don't know, but if my theory is that it's a combination of a few things. First, of the three judges, we had Allison Glass, who is primarily involved in textiles, fabric design, quilt design. You know, she's done that for so many years. And then Tammy Rubin, who is an artist. She's a 3D artist. She does ceramics and installations and multimedia kind of work. And she teaches. She's a professor in Texas. And so because they had someone from the quilt world and someone from the art world, then they decided to choose me because I kind of straddle the line between the two. And so I think like that had a lot to do with it, as well as my teaching experience. And I've taught at QuiltCon. I've taught at 1, 2, 3. So I did QuiltCon in Phoenix was my first one. I think that was 2020. That was the first one that I taught at. I taught for the virtual QuiltCon 2021, and then I also taught at Raleigh last year, and now this year here. So I think that kind of experience
helped a lot.
Helped a lot. Yeah.
So we know that there are the three judges.
Yes.
And one of the thoughts we had was when selecting the judge's choice, how do you as a judge determine that? And determine from the whole pool of quilts that have been selected, the one that you want to choose?
It was extremely difficult because there were so many amazing quilts. And for that one category where there was no criteria other than what you personally liked. And so there were 2 quilts that I was deliberating between. It was so difficult for me to choose between them both because I love them both, but for different reasons. And the one that I chose, that one was by an improv artist, Emily Trahan. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, so I apologize, Emily, if I'm not saying this right. But her work is just phenomenal, and it just spoke to me on a visceral level. Like when I saw it, I literally got chills.
And I imagine it's very much like, let's say you compare it to students who are applying to go to college, and they've been in a class and everybody in the class makes a 4.0, and now we're trying to apply, and how do we make ourselves stand apart from all the other 4.0 students?
Exactly.
I would imagine it's somewhat on the same level. The skill level is there, the design, everything was there, and now it comes down to which one, as you said, you reacted to on a visceral level.
Yes.
And so, as judges also, Is there particular things that you're keeping in mind as far as criteria with the different categories when you're looking at the various categories that are within the show?
Yes, so when we're looking at the various categories, there's actually a list of criteria that we're looking for.
Okay.
And so there's a definition for each category. We have to look at each quilt objectively into as like how they interpret that category. Are they meeting the criteria? Are they doing X, Y, and Z and actually fulfilling this? Like there were some quilts that were phenomenal, but they were entered into one category or another and they just didn't quite meet the criteria of that category, which was like, it felt criminal saying no to these quilts because they were just stunning, stunning pieces, but they just didn't check those boxes.
So is that something that people who are considering entering a quilt, that they really need to study what the criteria is for that category?
Yes.
When they're trying to decide, do I want to go into this category? That it's really important to read that fine print.
That is correct.
Okay, that's good to know, and as far as, that's what judges are looking for. So if you aren't ticking all the boxes, maybe you should look at a different category?
Yes. I think that one thing that people need to do is to not just be very honest with themselves about where they see this piece going, but they also should maybe consult a friend or consult someone else. Because there are just some quilts that I felt were just like,
They were close.
They were close, but not quite, and I felt like they were misplaced. Like, they probably would have done a lot better, or they probably would have won a prize had they been in a different category.
Okay, oh, that's a great tip to hear from a judge, that
Yeah.
really read that fine print about what they're looking for in that category.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other tips from the judge's perspective?
I think that this year, in terms of minimalist design, we really went with like the art school definition of what defines minimalism. And so I think that Tammy really led our group with that. So, you know, we made some decisions that I think might upset people, but I stand by those choices.
Right, right. Well, I think this is great. It's always, you never know from the viewer's perspective, well, what were the judges thinking about, X particular quilt when they were looking at it, and you think, oh, this is great, and we love this, but why didn't they choose this for a winner? But as you said, there's a lot of sort of nuance that goes into the decision-making of the judges.
I mean, it was very nuanced, and there are so many quilts where it was like we debated them, we talked about them at length, because we were just not quite sure, because they were just stunning. They were really well done. They were technically masterful and, visually striking, but they just did not quite meet the criteria of the category, or they met the criteria, but there was another quilt that met it a little bit more successfully, or that we felt was more compelling in that category.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful show. There's a lot of amazing quilts out there. And so thank you very much for giving us a little bit more insight into what people could achieve, what's the goals that they can set for themselves in the show. So thank you again for stopping by. And
My pleasure.
taking time.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Sorry about the sound thing. I went through echo cancellation and non-echo cancellation. I will say, I will not say anything for a moment. I will say, I know there was an echoing in the room because they were in an empty room. All right. But before we talk about this, Hillary asked if this was not thread work. No, I don't think so. I think it's cut up linen, and I'll tell you why I think that. Because if you look really closely, like say the bottom left one, you can see the white thread stitching it down. You know what? I don't know. I don't know. Well, Hillary, aren't you a sleuth? Huh. Okay. So, a couple of things it struck me. Okay, why have I been asked to be a judge? All right. I've done the Mancuso show, I've done local things. And here's the thing, after I did the Mancuso show, I decided I didn't want to judge anymore. It's too much for various reasons. And I was talking to Ricky. He called me up and he said, "Listen, I want to talk to you about something." He said, "And I don't want an answer like right now. I want you to think about it." And he talked about basically, why aren't I judging? I've been doing this for, 45 years. I am kind of a jack of all trades. I do have an art degree. So, in other words, it gets down to perhaps I have the chops that are necessary. And I've seen enough in my life to be able to assess fine workmanship, etc. Okay. So, I thought about it, and he said, "Besides that, you get to get your nose on the quilts, which is awesome." So I thought about it and I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." Okay. So am I nervous about it? Yes, because so many things go into it, but thank goodness there are 3 of you. Now, here's the thing. First, your quilt gets juried in, and that's done by photography. So if you've got a crappy photograph of your quilt, don't even bother. If you think you have a serious contender, you might want to pay a professional to do it, and or perhaps in your studio, you can do it. So they're juried in, and then here comes the judge. Now, I Mancuso, we judged when they were already hung on the floor. Um, Houston, they judge maybe a month before, and I think that's so they can go get the book made, I don't know. And then Paducah, they judge maybe 3 days before, so the judge flies there and then stays there, and they judge, and then it goes on. Oh, I know why I turned down Paducah. I turned down Paducah because that's when my mom and dad were in such horrible shape, and I couldn't be gone that long from him. Okay, now far as categories, I thought this part was really interesting. And I talked to Ricky about this. Okay, so in categories, here's the deal. I believe in those other 2 shows, not QuiltCon, they will switch you. They will switch you. If they think your quilt really could take a top ribbon in another category, they reserve that right. So I thought that was interesting that at QuiltCon, they're real hardcore about that. So read the instructions. It always comes down to that. Read the instructions so your quilt has the best shot. All right. And last but not least, remember this is highly subjective opinion. And that's why I think it's really cool that they have people at QuiltCon from outside quilting because as she was saying, they could define minimalism in an art sense, So I love that we got this interview. Um, Am I nervous? Oh, yeah, I'm nervous, but I can do it. So, I know some shows share quilt judge comments, but no idea about QuiltCon. I don't know either. Now, do quilt show judges have to go through training? There is a program, or I don't know if it's still around, through AQS that's certified, that is a certified judge training. And I suppose if you're new on the scene or you want that in your back pocket to be considered as a judge, you might want to do it. I know I haven't been through it. Ricky hasn't been through it. Libby hasn't been through it. Um, Sue Nichols hasn't been through it. I mean, I can go down the line, but all of us have been quilting for a very, very, very long time and understand excellence. Okay. Yeah, Rondi, it is hard. Do you know if judges' comments are shared? I do not know. I, um I do not know, Carol, because I have not been there behind the Wizard of Oz's gate. I don't know if they would tell them that. Boy, would that be a stab in the heart. So sorry about the sound. Okay. Um, all right. So, let's talk about this next week. There's so much for you to do. It's crazy. You might want to grab a pencil. Okay. So, last Saturday, Dee did in her classroom how to make thread lace. You can find it in the Friday newsletter and click through to it. I wasn't there because I was in a class with Joanne Sharp. I'm in her year-long creativity class. Now, I'm not doing all the work in Joanne's class, but I want to hear everything she has to say. It's another discipline. But what she said on Saturday that was life changing to me, and I've done it innately my whole quilting career, as a lot of us work from a pattern. So we know we're going to start here and we're going to go here, right? During COVID, when I would do like the cave mystery quilt, people will go, well, what's it going to be? What size? I don't know. It's a mystery. A lot of people couldn't handle that. But what she said, which was a light bulb moment for me, is that when you are creating from scratch, you make a decision and you do it on one thing. Then that decision, that action will lead you to the next thing. So the thing I'm working on right now is insanely busy. There's no way I could have visualized it from the beginning, but each action leads to the next action. And probably you're all going, duh, well, I know that. But it was so simply laid out. And in fact, I called her after. I said, you said something so profound. She didn't even remember saying it. Okay. It's going to become a part of my classes when I teach embroidery and things like that. You can't worry about the big picture, all right? Just take a step, take a next step, whatever. So that was last Saturday, Dee's class, and I got to take a look-see because I just love all that thread stuff. Okay, then next Monday, Bianca was interviewed, and her big deal is she's a garment maker, and a lot of the garments are made from quilts that cease to exist because they are so ratty. All right. This one doesn't look too ratty, but she talks about the preservation, the care, and all of that when you're working with quilts that, have holes in them. How do you fix them, etc. Oh man, is she cute or what? Not only does she do quilted clothing, but she also does really awesome regular clothing. And I noted when I was stalking her on her site that she teaches at the Madeline School of Art Needlework. So it's going to be good. Okay, then next Saturday, Ricky has a really great, I got to get my information here, a really fabulous interview with John Cole Morgan. Okay, this Saturday is World Quilt Day. Now, John Cole Morgan is from South Africa, and he's going to talk about what's going on in quilting. And then in particular, they dial into what relates to young quilters and then quilt education as well as self-help through these quilt community. Also they have, they have a bunch of amazing embroiderers too. So Ricky was so excited when he connected with John Cole, and I know has really been putting together a lot of work for this interview this Saturday. Okay. And what's super cool is that there will be an exhibit from these artists in South Africa. That the exhibit's going to be in Glasgow, Scotland. So that is like super awesome. And then I noted one of you already has listened to my lecture with Sarah Vedler. Sarah Vedler has put together a week of fabulous interviews. It's creativity for well-being. It's free, you guys. It's free. So the event is going to be March 10th through 14th. She has many different people, of which I was one of them. Let's take a look see at that, okay? And you can watch these, and it's free, and I think you've got, oh god, don't quote me on it, but I'm gonna say like 48 hours to watch it. If you want them forever and ever, amen, she is charging a nominal free fee so that you can when you're doing your walk, when you're on the airplane, you can download them and have them. When you sign up for free, she will explain more about it, and there's even a video. When she asked me to do it, I said, "Sarah," I said, "you don't want me." I said, "I am going through not a good thing right now. I have found that my creativity is smashed." And she said, "No, you're exactly who I want." And so mine is about when you get crunched in your creativity. I haven't listened to it yet, so I don't know if I sound like an idiot or not. But the crazy thing is, before we actually did the interview and after Sarah and I set a date, I broke through. 2 years, 2 years, I have been not in a good headspace and I've broken through. So, and I believe I discussed that in that. So that's really exciting. Also, uh, when each group, each person that's presenting, or at least I know I am, there's going to be a giveaway, and it's going to be Quilter Select ruler, cutter, and mat. So I think there's a place where you sign up for that. Anyways, I think this is a magical gravy train that is coming up. So we have Sarah Vedler all this week. We have Ricky on Saturday, and then we have Bianca on Monday. I think that's a pretty cool way to be celebrating all this. All right. So they said, watch our email for access to Ricky's, our email, yeah, for access to Ricky's interview on Saturday. All right. If you're not on our email list, you're missing the boat, okay? Because that's how we get information to you. And you simply get on the gravy train boat at thequiltshow.com and sign up for our newsletter. Okie dokie dokie dokie. I want to thank all of you for being here. I'm going to sew some more today. I'm very excited. And I'll see you next Monday. But, well, maybe if you sign up for Sarah Vedler's thing, I'll see you in a couple hours. In fact, I got to go watch it too and see if I sounded like an idiot or not. So thanks for tuning in. Have a great World Quilt Weekend and do all the preparation you have to do to set yourself up for it. Okie dokie. Thank you, Becky. I broke through, and it's happened to me 3 times in my life. And maybe one day that'll be what one of these things are about, because it's scary as all flippin' get out. Running long.